Hello everyone, and welcome to my talk on retail and retail, it is a talk on retail, that's technically true, but how mobile is retail's third era. I usually can't really think without pacing across the room. However, due to a slight technical difficulty, I need my notes in front of me, so I am going to look a little bit like a teacher standing here, but hopefully I don't come across too preachy. So this talk is to discuss how mobile is retail's third and most important era. So to get underway, to predict the future, it really helps to look at the past. So, in the first era, the bricks-and-mortar era, I'm sure some of you remember, dusting off your old horse and carriage to go and buy bread every Sunday. You used to go to a physical store and you do your weekly shop. And in case your horse didn't really feel up to it again in the week, you'd make sure you got enough in that one shop. And your shopping habit was really based around getting as much out of the shop as possible for convenience sake. Now, in the second era, as the story goes, which was web, the online era created new ways to shop and access 250 million people globally with laptops and the internet, and fortunately no horse required. So a new opportunity to sell globally came about for the first time, but also it was the first time that consumers could compare prices and services and review poor experiences, therefore holding brands to account, and of course spend with greater ease as the increasing amounts of data enabled more opportunities for experiences. However, the one guarantee was that you were almost always in one of two places, at home or at work. So, by the time mobile came around with its rich native experience, for the first time ever, consumers could shop on the go, whether that was for convenience or discovery or impulse or anything at all, really. So, history repeats itself, a bit like my mother. So, when e-commerce first emerged as a category, it was only possible for the biggest retailers to jump on board. It was new, it was complicated, and required an entirely new skill set and technical due diligence to understand and get your head around where the wins really were. And moving on from bricks to clicks, the largest retailers and brands took advantage. So they built their own back-end systems and integrated them into their supply chain in order to maximize what became known as a famous buzzword used earlier, the omni-channel opportunity. So in the meantime, the big specialist players started rising up as pure plays, and as did the e-commerce platforms. And they sought to democratize the opportunity, which enabled thousands, and by the time of WooCommerce, Shopify, BigCommerce, eventually millions of retailers, smaller players, were able to come up and enjoy this opportunity. But before we get into that, let's just do a sense check on history repeating itself. When mobile apps first came out, just like when e-commerce and web first came out, only the biggest brands and retailers were able to afford and leverage that opportunity. And though a few pure play players came out dominating the space alongside them, the model was pretty different. You had to go to an app store, and you had to build a bespoke product, and then you had to manage it, while all the while you could just stick with mobile web, which makes your life less complicated. So moving from mobile web to native, there's been a large resistance. And this resistance to adopt native apps in the widespread e-commerce market, I believe, is really due to two major factors: cost and distribution. So to the first point, cost. Well, this is what the global e-commerce market looked like with platforms. Essentially, when platforms started arriving, retailers and brands were suddenly able to start selling online. What was originally the reserve of only companies the size of Walmart to sell online was suddenly democratized for a middle layer of retailers to sell online, and eventually, like we said, with Shopify and BigCommerce, everyone else could enter into the market. And at Grabble, we believe exactly the same thing will happen to leverage what we call as native commerce, which is essentially selling inside any environment on your phone. And as such, we've been building our own platform called Mobula, which is at the start of that journey there, which we believe is a need in the market, essentially enabling mobile retailers, or retailers rather, to leverage the opportunity fully on mobile, as there are 10 times the potential customers as web ever had. And after all, research does show that brands that have both mobile web and native apps find that native converts 3 times better than their mobile website. So brands are literally leaving money on the table. And I'm sure everyone's pretty familiar with this X-looking graph in terms of desktop traffic and mobile traffic, and arguably that might well make the point that mobile web is better suited for this opportunity. After all, I'm sure everyone hears people say mobile web gets all the traffic, but native apps get all the time. And that leads to what we believe is a bit of a mobile paradox. If no one downloads apps anymore, but 89% of all time on mobile is spent in apps, then arguably something is wrong there. And so what is better for your business now and what is better for your business in the future is an important question. And we just discussed how cost prohibitive native mobile can feel, but that's no different to when e-commerce first came out. Those cost barriers will come down. The opportunity to engage in this manner will be leveraged. But we also mentioned distribution. So we've covered cost, but distribution is an interesting question because this is where at my company we've been thinking about this defined as native commerce. So to set the scene for you on how we view mobile web, we actually just see it as another app on your phone. If you've got an Android, it's your Chrome app, and if you've got an iPhone, it's your Safari app. It's really that simple. It's still just one of the apps on your phone. And all of your best mobile products are also, in their own right, single apps. Now, don't worry, we haven't gone mad. We're very well aware, despite the comments about Asia, where they're actually more open to downloading more apps. We know that you only use about 30 apps a month. But to us, this is really thinking about the problem the wrong way round. All that really matters is communicating to your customers wherever they already are and delivering them the experiences that fit in with their already existing actual behaviors. So the problem with mobile web is it's a one-size-fits-all strategy around shopping. It's just your website delivered differently, essentially taking it from, horizontal to vertical screen. But we thought about mobile shopping experiences for consumers in a different way. And we actually summarized at Grabble that they are always either busy or bored consumers. And if you look at your phone and you look at the apps you have on your phone, they generally fall into one or two of those categories. So we may all think we're incredibly busy the whole time, but if you've looked at Facebook or Instagram today, there's a good chance you've been bored, unless it was during Martin's talk, obviously. And similarly, if you've used one of your utility apps today or sent an email today, there's a good chance that you've been busy. So surely our best opportunity as an industry comes from leveraging the best of various platforms within our phones. And this is where our idea of native commerce comes from. It's experiences that are built within the platforms that already exist to improve them and drive results on mobile wherever your customer already is. So who else is thinking like this? Well, despite our love for the iPhone in the UK, Apple hold their cards close to their chest, but Google have lots of interesting innovations, and they do also happen to own 86% of the smartphone market globally with Android. Whilst they talked about progressive web apps, which is an awesome opportunity right now to deliver better experiences, they also had a recent announcement about instant apps, which is the idea essentially to load up app pages, so for example, product pages, and increase conversion in the mobile web. So essentially calling it from the Play Store in the server. And it's an incredible suggestion because actually it helps solve that mobile paradox we discussed earlier. You are suggesting to offer a 3 times better conversion without driving users to download something from an app store, which is essentially a distraction. But obviously what matters most is where you spend your time. And obviously not trying to make Facebook and Google have a fight on the front 2 rows over there. But, whilst instant apps is something to get excited about, 1 in every 6 minutes is spent in one of these apps on mobile. So the real question again is, how do I build native commerce experiences into those products? Well, instant articles, starting with content, are a superior experience to non-native articles. And for anyone that doesn't think that this is possible in Facebook, they've already started doing it with content. So this is essentially, for all intents and purposes, an app within their app. It provides a native content experience, making sure that you're not leaving Facebook and going to the mobile web. And it's a better experience for a consumer. And obviously, you're all very clued up and aware with Instagram and Instagram shopping, and they've just launched a big partnership with Shopify. And equally, they've talked about launching a partnership with Nike. There's going to be more and more of these experiences happening. But for now, anyway, this experience, when you actually click buy, will take you to the mobile web, which is very different to what they do in Asia. So WeChat, which is the biggest messaging app in Asia, has already been doing this for a while. And they have a product called mini programs, which is essentially apps built within their app. So that is the definition to us as native commerce. They've created a whole environment where within their app, you leverage millions of different native app experiences. So you never leave WeChat's app and you get a full shopping native experience, which is best in class. So now to wrap it up with some future gazing, some final thoughts on mobile commerce specifically. E-commerce is a game of numbers. I think you all appreciate that. So here are two major ones. Native offers up to 8 times better retention on customers, and studies say that you can increase your profits by 50% simply by improving your retention to your most loyal customers by 5%. So by not providing your most loyal customers with a best-in-class native app experience, you're leaving money on the table and not delivering a promise of quality to your most loyal customers. But if that's not enough, native apps also convert 3 times better than mobile web. So let's broadly appreciate that you are probably bored of hearing me talk about how native apps are great and are the future of mobile commerce, and let's get away from pure e-commerce for a second and actually appreciate the opportunity set out by mobile in all of its glory. So virtual reality, especially a product like Samsung Gear VR, as in the photo. Augmented reality, so if you think of Facebook's claim of putting the camera at the front and center of their entire business, that is something that they can only do on mobile using their app. They can't do it as part of their strategy on web. And it's so major, they talked about it as the major keynote speech from Mark Zuckerberg at F8 this year. Customer service, there's more and more brilliant apps that help you as a customer deal with people in store. This is an example of the brilliant Hero app, which helps you as a customer speak to customer service representatives in a store and help you with a purchasing decision faster. Logistics, so companies like Uber that move into logistics and suddenly break down barriers for people who previously found this too difficult. If you are a boutique owner in your 60s and the idea of delivering products through logistics always felt like too much hassle for you, but you know how to use an Uber app, suddenly that barrier has been broken down by mobile as well. And voice, we just heard about this. Obviously, this is a different version to the Google Home, but when you're thinking about Alexa or Siri or Google Home, it's facilitating these experiences. For all of these, voice, augmented reality, virtual reality, customer service, for all of them, you download an app on your phone and navigate all of those opportunities from a native app downloaded on your phone and use it as your central control panel to access all of these future opportunities. So, whilst retail's second era, which is the web, opened up access to 250 million customers globally, today 2.5 billion people have access to smartphones and data across the world, meaning that there's 10 times the potential audience to sell to. And whilst users expect quality experiences, it's not really appropriate anymore to fumble around on an optimized mobile website that wasn't made for the phone's operating system. And that will only satisfy your customer for so long. So if you aren't thinking about the problem in terms of how native frees up your future opportunities on all of those other points mentioned, you aren't thinking about a consumer future where mobile is at the heart of a customer journey. So on a final thought, and this might be a bit extreme, but embracing change and asking these questions is often a good idea anyway, even if it just sparks a debate. With regards to future-proofing your businesses, it's certainly our perspective that the sooner you think about the power of the native mobile operating system as the heartbeat of all commerce experiences, the sooner you're ready to leverage the power of this third era opportunity and answer potentially a question of how you sell on mobile if eventually native dominates and mobile web ceases to exist. Thank you very much for your time.